5 months ago, I showed how to fill a raised garden bed without using soil. I planted some potatoes in it, and now it's time to see how the bed is going. G'day, I'm Mark from Self Sufficient Me, and also I'm going to show you how to top up this raised garden bed so that we can keep on growing. Let's get into it. Well, as you can see, the bed has fallen dramatically since it was refurbished and built up 5 months ago. The bed was made primarily out of organic waste like banana plants and pumpkins, a whole ton of sugarcane bales, some rock minerals, and homemade compost from one of our tumblers. But not only has the bed fallen, but the compost and the other things that I put on top has leached through the straw bales and all dried up, and well, it's looking pretty sad. I doubt you could grow much in here at all now. So obviously we're going to have to top this bed up. But what happened to those potatoes that I sowed in here? Firstly, I've got some excuses. The cockatoos kept breaking off the young potato plants as they were growing right at the base of the plants, so that disrupted the growth a lot. Secondly, I went away for 5 weeks and the plants didn't get much water. Thirdly, my son pulled out most of the potato plants while I was away, thinking they were weeds. So what's left is probably either rotten and gone or have been eaten by the rodents. I'm going to have to disrupt this bed to be able to refurbish it, so it's not a bad thing that I'm digging through it. I'm going to get rid of these weeds too, or at least most of them, and that grass. There you go, that's where that's coming from. You could probably eat it, but I don't know. Anything else under there? Small one. Tell you what, I can just go back in there as fill. Couple more. It's re-sprouting. You can see it's starting to break down almost into its own compost. We might as well mark that down as a failure. I'm not going to go searching for any more spuds. So let's break this up. Might even jump in here and just squish it down a little, just to limit that amount of fall that's inevitably going to happen anyway. That'll do. Now we've got to find some stuff to put in here. Now we've just had some concreting done, and this is it here, just to patch up some of our driveway. Well, make it a little bit broader so we could have some extra car parking space. And there was a lot of soil dug up out of this sort of a extension of the garden that was beside the house that came out a bit too far. Apart from the concrete waste that the guys threw here that I'm going to have to get rid of, the rest of this soil up here is pretty good. It's got some clay in it, and that's something that when you're adding it to a garden bed you have to be careful of. But you know, a little bit of clay soil is good in a raised garden bed if you use it sparingly. It's good for moisture retention and got good nutrients in it. If you can blend it in with your other soils, you just don't want to overdo it, because obviously then you're going to have a very heavy bed. But there is a lot of extra topsoil in there that I'm going to use in a lot of my other garden beds, and that's why when the builder asked me if I would like him to take that to the tip, I said flat out no, because I'll be using that in our raised garden beds, but I won't be using it in this example, because this example is a no soil bed. So whilst I will use that in other parts of the garden, for this experiment here I won't be using any of that secondhand soil at all. But realistically, you can use secondhand soil or fill. If it's poor, you can use it sparingly as fill in your garden bed, add organic mixtures to it, add fertilizer to it, and you can pretty soon develop that into a beautiful garden soil. So what else can you use? Well, you could use some old potting mix, and I do that a lot to pump up these beds naturally. Let's pour that out. I don't have much of it. I just got this one little bit, but it all helps. There's a bit of a sweet potato tuber here. I'm going to plant some rosella in here. I'm just going to sow the seeds. It's the right time of year for it. That'll be at the end once I've refurbished this. But let's throw this sweet potato tuber in there and see if we can't get that to grow as well. I'm going to put that right in the middle. Let's stick it right there. So yeah, this isn't going to go far, but if you've got a lot of old potting mix, don't throw it away, don't throw it to the tip. Put it in the compost or pump up your raised garden bed with it. Here's my old 3-bay composting beds made from old recycled pallets. Well, I can't say they're still going strong. I've got to refurbish this last one. It's falling to pieces. I've wrapped it in some recycled plastic, made from recycled plastics, and that's doing a good job to keep all that rotting wood together. And I'm probably going to fill these with concrete. It was a good idea by one of you guys several months ago to maybe pour that into the center of them and to get some more use out of them. And I think I'll do that, but I still need to line this last one. The reason why the last one here, I haven't lined it, is because I had this massive pile of banana waste in here that I was waiting for it to compost down. Look, I didn't even turn it, and look what it's turned into. Just look at this stuff. That 6 to 12 months ago, that was just banana plants. Can you believe it? I still can't wrap my head around it. You'd usually turn this over into the next bed. That's why that center bed is empty for that process. And then this type of stuff that's still yet to break down on top gets turned into the bottom on the second pile. That's how the 3-bay system works. But in this case, it is fair dinkum. It is just all broken down. So I'm going to use some of this obviously to top up that bed, some of that beautiful compost. And in that 3rd bay is some old, really old cow manure. And I'll put that in probably first and the compost on top. The reason why, because the cow manure is probably going to be a bit more fertile, and I would say it's going to be a little more, maybe even dense. So that can go on the bottom and the compost can go on top, and that won't be as probably strong and be easier for those seeds to germinate. But this manure that's in here, which I'll show you now, it's very well rotted. It pretty much looks like compost, very similar, but it's more consistent. Compost, a lot of the time it's made of a whole heap of different materials, whereas manure, very well aged manure, looks the same. This looks like brown dirt now. See that? There's absolutely no smell to it, but it's a very consistent looking mix. Extra worms, there'll be worm casings and worm eggs in here as well. That's not going to hurt the bed either. Nice and moist. Okay, let's put the manure in, spread it over nice and evenly. Now let's go get some of that banana compost. Whole heap of white ants. That just helps to break down the wood, and that's part of the composting process. Of course, you don't want white ants in your home, I get it, and this scares people a lot. But in Queensland, especially if you live in a white ant area, white ants are going to be everywhere anyway. So just because you've got wood in your garden beds or you've got termites in your compost, don't get too worried about it. Just keep inspecting your house, that's the main thing. If they've got food, which they've got plenty of it around here, it's unlikely they're going to go in your home and look for wood. They're going to eat it from the surrounds, and they're going to help you break down your compost. All sorts of critters in your compost. There's a centipede here, that'll go good in the garden bed. He was probably feeding off the termites. I still think I'll end up turning this pile over into that next bay, but I'm just robbing it now because I need it. What? I wondered where they went. Oh. Anyone know how to restore some old secateurs? Same thing, spread it evenly around the bed. Now just a quick point, if you're wondering why I'm not going to fill this up to the top, it's going to keep sinking anyway. This is a slow process, but what I'm saying is you can keep growing in it as it's sinking, and then you'll slowly build this up. It's that slow building process. And by the time you're finished in a few years, you will find that the soil in this bed from the bottom right to the top is all amazing magic stuff. So let's just smooth this bed out a little bit. And you might be able to mix in the compost layer with the manure layer, or whatever you've got in here, the compost layer with some of the potting mix, whatever you've got, but just smooth it out so it's nice and even. And now I want to add a good layer of mulch to this bed, because I don't want this topsoil, manure and compost drying out too quickly in this harsh sun. Plus it's just more organic matter to put in this bed, and it will help keep those seedlings a little bit more protected, the root zone, and keep the moisture in the bed. Rocky Point sugarcane mulch is one of the best you can get. I get mine through Australian Landscaping Supplies. If you look at my links below and you're in Australia, especially in the Brisbane metro area, you can get 10% off. Now I've got my Rosella seedlings in this little bottle cap that I've been soaking for a few hours just to give them a bit of a head start, and I've got some of these mini canes that I've just snapped up, and I'm going to be putting a cane where I plant one of these just so I know for reference where I planted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then maybe one either side of the middle, because I've got 10 seeds, so I'll do it one in each corner. So I'll just dig a bit of a hole, 1 there, 2, 3, 4. Gonna make sure this doesn't get too covered over in the future, so that that seed actually germinates, and one in the middle. There we go. Once I wet this down, it'll stay in there better, and I'll do the same for the other side. Okay, now let me put my sticks in first, so I know, down a fair way, and then to the side, and then I'll plant or sow the seed in the middle. These can also help with the plant as the seedling grows, just for a bit of support initially. Now I will put all my little seeds one by one in the middle. And then just cover them over, pat it down. And now let's give it a nice water in. Be pretty liberal with the water around the outsides, and then just a light water on top. You don't want to wash that seed through or anything, but you want to keep this damp now for the next few weeks. And keeping it moist also will help set this mulch and keep that mulch, keeping the soil underneath it, soil, organic matter, compost, well I suppose it is turning into soil, keeping all that underneath it nice and moist, and it will just continue to break down. A couple of nice big spiders in here too. It's just a bed that's full of life. Oh, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a big top up, thumbs up, and share the video around. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now. Cheers.